In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your website, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 $3 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
Is debt beating you down? You need discipline. You need the Debt Ninja. If you've been caught in a financial trap and need to be set free, then you need the Debt Ninja. Want to stop those harassing collection calls, start saving thousands in interest and fees, and get out of debt fast? Then you need to call the Debt Ninja. The Debt Ninja will find the best companies across the country that will help you consolidate all your bills into one easy payment, reduce your payments by 30 to 50%, and get you out of debt fast. If you have unsecured debt of $10,000 or more, such as credit cards, loans, or medical bills, call the Debt Ninja for a free 15-minute consultation.
Call 800-826-1246. 800-826-1246. That's 800-826-1246. Call today.
The Debt Ninja.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the Internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome, everybody, and welcome, fellow patriots. Welcome, fellow deplorables. Welcome to the Conservative Commandos radio show. Coming to you live from the studios of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network at WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and around the world on the Internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, AM, FM 24/7. We're everywhere, we're everywhere. And joining me today as my co-host is the Patriot from the Hoosier State. And he'd be happy to tell you why it's the Hoosier State, and that's my very good friend, J.D. Manier. J.D., welcome to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Hey, great to be back with you again, Rick.
Great to have you with us, J.D. J.D., I'll tell you, every day it's something else. Every day it's something else. Over the weekend, it was the bombings in New Jersey, New York, the slashings in Minnesota. Last week it was the campaign, and this week, my God, there's more trouble in the streets of America. In Charlotte, North Carolina, now has the attention of the country.
I watched this morning the sheriff, the black sheriff. I thought he did an exemplary job describing what was going on, but I watched what happened last night, and it's just like any cause to riot. And so a black police officer shot someone, I have to give you the name, but everybody knows what's going on down there. A 40-year-old something guy came out of his car, and he had a gun, and it looked like he was threatening them. They said, please drop your gun. He refused to drop the gun, and they said it was a threatening motion, and so he was shot, and he ended up dying. And Rick, I want to just point out, it just saddens my heart so much because I'm trying to think what's going on in the mind. And my plea is when the police ask you to do something, you need to do it for your own sake. And, I mean, is he having thoughts about, police, Kaepernick out there in San Francisco wearing the pig disgraceful socks, and this whole ethos, from Black Lives Matter, that pigs in a blanket. It's just his mind thinking, should I fight back? These are the bad guys. But it was so sad. It's so sad for another loss of life. And so that happened up in Wisconsin. It's happening across the country, where there is a built-in, I want you to comment on this, but there's this built-in hatred of police and authority. Now, where's that coming from, Rick? Talk to me a little bit about that. I think it's from up above.
JD, we saw this back in the 1960s. I call it an epidemic. We saw this epidemic in the 1960s in the major cities of America, in Newark, Detroit, Philadelphia. And then I thought the country was healing its wounds. That we were seeing people, as Martin Luther King said, by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. However, we have a new epidemic of this hatred between blacks, police, whites. And I think I've mentioned this here before on the Conservative Commando's radio show, have found patient zero of this new epidemic. And that patient zero is Barack Obama. When Barack Obama went out of his way to make a big event of the fact that a Harvard professor was trying to break into his own house, it appears, and the police doing the right thing, seeing somebody break into a house, any house, stop them and question him. He made a big deal out of it. He called it racism. Barack Obama jumped into the fray and said the police were acting stupidly. Barack Obama continued to spread this disease throughout the Trayvon Martin, throughout the mess that happened in Ferguson, Missouri. No matter where these messes happen now, Barack Obama always, with this posse of Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton, they gallop into these areas, and instead of calming people down, stir things up. So here you have another situation where a police officer was doing his duty in Charlotte, North Carolina. Another perpetrator refused to obey the police officer's demands, went running back to his truck, was reaching for something. That officer, protecting himself, thinking it was a gun he was reaching for, fired and killed the man. And because of that, Charlotte, North Carolina, is enraged. Instead of people waiting for the facts, it's another rush to judgment, JD. And we've seen this before. We saw this rush to judgment in Baltimore, Maryland, when a guy by the name of Freddie Gray died, for God knows what reasons, in the back of a police van. We had a rush to judgment. Here we go again with another rush to judgment. JD, one thing that I did think by Barack Obama being elected, and believe me, I did not want him elected. I didn't see him as very good for America. But I thought if one good thing came out of this, maybe this would help to heal the country even more. Here we have a black man elected president of the United States. Blacks didn't elect him on his own. Blacks only amount to about 12% of the vote in this country. So they did not elect Barack Obama on his own. Took a lot of white votes. JD, last night it was, I was flipping through the channels and I came across a sports program where an ex-member of the NFL was being interviewed, and this person was a black man, and he was asked about everything that was going on, the race, the Colin Kaepernick mass members of the Philadelphia Eagles standing during the Pledge of Allegiance and a Black Power salute, and he was asked about this. And he would say, you know, as a black, and he made a lot of sense, because he said, as a black man, I would not want to be judged by the actions of all black people. Therefore, we should not judge the actions of a few. We should not judge all police by the actions of a few. That made a lot of sense to me. JD, break time, and you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with JD Manier and Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network here at WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, AM, FM 24/7. Today's show is being brought to you by the First Amendment and protected by the Second. Don't go away. JD and I will be right back.
They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos radio network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, CCRSnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Since 2011, we have been calling for a national commitment from all Americans to participate in an annual event to honor all of the victims and their families who suffered during and after the most devastating event to ever take place on American soil. We all remember those horrible scenes of destruction on September 11th, 2001 that unfolded right before our eyes, either up front or on television. We continue to ask every American to participate in the united action of prayer, which is simply to stop whatever you are doing at precisely 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. to either observe 1 minute of silence or to offer a prayer to honor the memory of those who are directly affected by this unforgettable scene of destruction. Please include a prayer of thanks for living in a country where even something as horrific as 9/11 could not weaken our spirit. This year, we would like to ask one more thing as a show of unity, since we are still fighting with the enemy who caused the 9/11 tragedy. Would you display the flag for the day at your home, on your car, bike, or anywhere you can display Old Glory? Let's show our enemies that we can still unite in our love for our country.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with J.D. Manier, and I'm Rick Trader. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of our shows, check out our websites, ccrshow.com or ccrsnetwork.com, or at noontime, log on to ruralradio.net, or at 9 p.m., log on to highplainsdailynews.com. Or you can hear our show any time of the day from your telephone by calling 832-999-1199. JD, we've got some great guests joining us today. Who will you be speaking with?
Well, we have Bill Cummings at 3:35. He's a returning guest, president and founder of Pathfinder Insurance Training and Publishing, and they're the largest in the Midwest and one of the top insurance publishing companies in America, training manuals and everything they do. Bill's going to talk about Hillary's health and Hillary's healthcare option with us, and we're only about 5 days from the big debate, and he's got some great insight. We're looking forward to hearing Bill. 4:05, another returning guest we haven't had on the show for a while, though, Rick. Colonel Dick Brower of Special Operations speaks. And they've got something called VPAC 2. In South Carolina, they had VPAC 1, I think it was earlier this summer, and featured a lot of veterans. Dr. Ben Carson spoke there, and so did Donald Trump. Well, they've got a great list, a cast of speakers coming up in October. He wants to talk about what they're doing, and Vets in the Fight is their theme right now, and we're looking forward to hearing about that. And your guest, talk about that one.
Yes, at 4:35, we will be speaking with Dr. Herbert London. He's the president of the London Center for Policy Research and a senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute. Dr. London's work has appeared in every major newspaper and journal in the country, and he is the author or editor of 27 books and 3 plays. He's the co-author of a recent book out, The BDS War on Israel, The Orwellian Campaign to Destroy Israel Through Boycott, Divestment, and the Sanctions Movement. He's going to be joining us to talk about Islam attacks America once again under Obama. So we're going to be speaking with Dr. London about the bombings in New York, New Jersey, and the slashing in Minnesota. JD, what else is on your radar?
You know, Hillary calls us deplorable and not even redeemable. Mm-hmm. And we were talking in the first segment about, you know, the sad affairs with race relations, the state of affairs under Obama. But we have a encouraging report. You know, Christine and I last night had the privilege of going down and doing our Harry Hoosier project before a black church, Indianapolis, just on the north side, about 50 people. And it was one of the finest moments I can remember in a long time. Great congregation, lovely people. And so, but the first half hour, and you've heard me talk about Harry Hoosier because he's buried in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. He's the reason for Indiana having a nickname. He was a tremendous circuit-riding Methodist preacher.
And what is that nickname, JD?
Hoosier.
Hoosier, the Hoosier State. See, people, I told you, if you just ask me to tell you why it's called the Hoosier State.
And Philadelphia had a big role in his life. Well, we had pictures from St. George's Methodist Church, the oldest Methodist, like 1769. It was founded there, just next to the Ben Franklin Bridge. And there's a great portrait of Harry Hoosier there. We had all kinds of information, and then the last half hour, Christina did a revival service. And we had lots of hugs. We had a lot of amens. And it was just one of the best feel-good moments I can remember in a long, long time as we lifted up the Lord. And, of course, we told the story. Lincoln said 150 years ago, let the people know the facts. We'll be a free nation. And it was very freeing to our spirits. And so much in contrast to what's been going on, you know, in Charlotte, in Tulsa, and some of these other places in America. But that's a good story. I just had to tell you.
It is. I'm glad you brought us some good news, JD. I'm glad you brought us that.
Hey, I know Bill Cummings I spoke with earlier this week. He's going to be a great guest here in a few minutes. But this profiling, and CNN falsely accusing Donald Trump of using racial profiling. He didn't use the word race, but he lauded, we know that earlier this week, he lauded Israel and the work that they do, and the local police. And he's so upset with the political correctness that's going on, that's destroying our country. And I wanted to point that out. I had a lot of tweets returned to me because I did a little research. And last Saturday was our 225th anniversary of the Constitution. That sure rings a bell here in Philadelphia. But it also was the last day, a 4-day Muslim holiday called Eid al-Adha. And so it started on the 13th of September, finished up on the 17th, Constitution Day. Well, wasn't that the day when we had the Minnesota stabbings? That's when we had the bombings in New York City and the bombings and we've been talking about that in New Jersey. We need to profile behaviorally, psychologically. We need to look at the backgrounds of these people. When the FBI has people, they should get put on the terror watch list. But it's all this political correctness, all these forms, all this top-down PC is really destroying America, making us much less safe. And I had to tell everybody that we've had it up to here. Let's use common sense. Now, something else I watched in the last 24 hours, Fox News claiming, now wait a minute, they said the refugees haven't caused problems. These are people maybe been here 10 years, 12 years, and I got to correct that. What about the Idaho rape that occurred this year of the little girl? Those were refugees. Refugees have been counted in America, and they bring over polio, measles, tuberculosis, hepatitis. And
well, JD, just last week in Philadelphia, there was an illegal alien convicted. He got 70 years in prison for raping a 6-year-old girl. A 6-year-old girl. The week before that in Philadelphia, there was a shooting where an illegal alien killed another illegal alien, member of the gang MS-13. So these people, it's like this. You know, JD, did you hear this thing about the bowl of Skittles? You know what Skittles are, right, JD?
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay. So you have a bowl of Skittles in front of you, but yet you know that 3 of the Skittles are deadly poisonous. Okay? Would you reach your hand in and grab out a handful of Skittles and start eating if you knew that just a few in that big bowl are poisonous? Just a few of them. Would you eat them? Would you dive in that bowl of Skittles? This is the risk this government, this administration, Hillary Clinton wants us in. And
it's Russian.
I'm sorry?
Russian roulette.
It's
Hillary
Russian roulette.
Playing Russian.
It's Russian roulette. Now, all these people coming here are not dangerous, or at least I hope they're not. Okay? Number one, as far as giving them refuge, give them refuge. Why are all these people coming out of the Middle East, going to Germany, Great Britain, the United States, France? Why are none of them being resettled in Islamic countries? Why are none of them going to Saudi Arabia? Explain that to me. Saudi Arabia is a lot closer than the United States. How about this? Let's make their country safe and keep them there. And that once that their country is safe, all the people that came here to seek refuge, they all go home. In fact, that's the law, JD. Refugees are supposed to be repatriated to their country when the situation becomes safe.
The statistics point out the 60-some thousand we spend per refugee over here, we could put 12, for that same amount of money, we could put 12 refugees over there with shelter, food, in tents, in the lands that they're used to living in.
Absolutely. Let's give them shelter, let's give them food, let's give them medicine, and keep them in their own country. JD, you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with JD Manier and Rick Trader, coming to you live from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network at WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, AM, FM 24/7. And on the other side, we're going to be speaking with Bill Cummings, CEO of Pathfinder. Be right back.
Crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty.
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos radio show.
And I'm John Forsyth, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow patriots, the Conservative Commandos radio show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions. We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we are trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos radio show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers.
Since 2011, we have been calling for a national commitment from all Americans to participate in an annual event to honor all of the victims and their families who suffered during and after the most devastating event to ever take place on American soil. We all remember those horrible scenes of destruction on September 11th, 2001 that unfolded right before our eyes, either up front or on television. We continue to ask every American to participate in the united action of prayer, which is simply to stop whatever you are doing at precisely 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. to either observe 1 minute of silence or to offer a prayer to honor the memory of those who are directly affected by this unforgettable scene of destruction. Please include a prayer of thanks for living in a country where even something as horrific as 9/11 could not weaken our spirit. This year, we would like to ask one more thing as a show of unity since we are still fighting with the enemy who caused the 9/11 tragedy. Would you display the flag for the day at your home, on your car, bike, or anywhere you can display Old Glory? Let's show our enemies that we can still unite in our love for our country.
I'm Pastor Christina Lamanier. I'm a concerned mother and grandmother, and I urge you to vote for Donald Trump. Our Commander-in-Chief's highest priority is to secure the safety and freedom of Americans of every race, creed, and color. Trump will solve the ISIS crisis quickly and utilize the talents of people like Mayor Rudy Giuliani to restore law and order in our streets. Donald Trump will build the wall, secure our borders, and bring back jobs and prosperity to America by slashing taxes, cutting government waste, stamping out political correctness, harnessing our abundant natural resources, unleashing the patriotism and genius of we the people. Always remember, there is a special place in heaven for followers of Jesus Christ.
For more information, log on to INRASuperPAC.com. INRA Super PAC paid for this ad and is solely responsible for its content, not authorized by any candidate or its committee.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We're establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired, as I am, about the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on WNJC Radio 1360 a.m. or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioNetwork.com and CCRN.com for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard. From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet. We're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
This is JD and your host, Rick Trader. If you'd like to hear rebroadcasts of today's show, check out our website, CCRSnetwork.com, CCRshow.com. Or at noontime, log on to roarradio.net. And at 11 p.m., log on to highplaindailynews.com. You can listen to Conservative Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. Our next guest, Bill Cummings, is a graduate of Brown University, Columbia School of Business, and Naval Officer Candidate School. He's president of Pathfinder Insurance Training and Publishing, the leading insurance training school in the Midwest. Pathfinder has assisted hundreds of thousands of new agents in obtaining their life and health, property and casualty, and securities licenses for over 40 years. They write the premier textbooks for insurance license training used by schools across the country. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show, Bill.
Thank you, JD. Great to talk to you.
Hey, Bill, we're 5 days away from the first presidential debate, and I want to start out talking about Hillary's health. Our radio listeners, they'd love to get your take on this very hot topic.
Well, JD, it's very interesting because I've been for some time trying to figure out what was her really health status. And this week I heard an incredibly interesting video done by Dr. Ted Noel, 36 years of experience. And he makes a very good case for this, that Hillary may have advanced stage Parkinson's disease. And then Dr. Noel laid out 5 or 6 of the characteristics of Parkinson's disease and played out 10 videos that I reviewed again yesterday. And it's incredible how Parkinson's disease characteristics line up with the videos. Very, very interesting. Well, I'd like to share that with you.
Yeah, go right ahead, because people are scratching their heads. Democrats are scratching their heads, and the whole country is trying to figure out what's going on with Hillary.
Well, perhaps this will help. Dr. Noel said there's about 6 characteristics of Parkinson's disease. There's a brain freeze that ends up with the person falling down. The second one is head nodding tremors, where you shake your head back and forth. And there's an example of that where she did it 400 times in a row. Number 3, motor skills, difficulty with walking and steps. Number 4, hand tremors. Number 5, fatigue, which she's obviously had an awful lot of recently. And number 6, swallowing disorder, which the doctor thinks explains an awful lot of her coughing fits. And then he lays out 10 situations where Hillary's been in the public and exhibits these problems. And I'd like to share about 5 or 6 of those with you real quickly. Number 1, January 31st, 2005, she fainted during a speech, claimed it was lack of being, with enough water in your body, and that she had the
hydration.
Hydration, June 18, 2009, she fell down on her way to the White House and broke her elbow. She had security with her, but it happened so quickly that they couldn't grab her and keep her from hitting the ground. The third one, on early December 2012, at home in Chappaqua, she fell down and hit her head, and she was out for a long time with a concussion. The fifth one he brought up was April this year. She was on television, and she went into this weird head bobbing thing that looked very, very foolish. People are going, what the heck's wrong with that? The sixth one was 400-plus head bobs when Bernie Sanders introduced her at the DNC convention in Philadelphia this summer. The seventh one, May 2nd of this year, she gave a speech, and she was keeping her hands busy by putting them on her chest and some weird finger kinds of things. The eighth one, public meeting earlier this year, multiple questions came at her, and that creates a brain freeze. And one of her staff came up, rubbed her back, and said, just keep talking, just keep talking. She was frozen for about 30 seconds, and then when she came back to again, she said, just keep talking, which is a little weird. The ninth one, August 6, 2016, that's the one I just did. The 10th one happened last week at Ground Zero when she couldn't stay there very long, and AIDS took her away, and she almost collapsed getting into the van. So there's a huge number of suggestions that she has advanced Parkinson's disease, which would certainly suggest that she shouldn't be serving as president of this country.
Bill, that's a comprehensive list. But these are serious times. And we thank you. And it's good for people across the country to have these questions brought up. You think she has so many things to repay that she's going to hang in there regardless, even if it's not good for the country? She just has too much going that she owes in America and across the pond and everywhere. What do you think on that, Bill?
Well, observing history for as many years as I've been around, I think an awful lot of it comes down to power, money, and control. And Hillary is a power and money freak, and that she's in this to win it, and she's not going to back out. And the people around her are making a ton of money having her there. Obviously, the Clinton Foundation is making a ton of money having the power that they have. So I don't think she's going to pull out. I don't know when this thing is going to break, but I suspect in the next 40 or 50 days, somebody's going to see this Ted Noel's video and go, wait a minute, you think she's really and should be serving? Should we really run her? What's going to happen if the public finds out?
You know, owing and all that. We were talking in the first segment about Skittles, and that's really because of Eric Trump. But tell me if this is right in your estimation. The Donald Trump Foundation would be one Skittle because he raised a flag, and a very big flag down there. He waved proudly in South Florida. But I think if you look at Bill and Hillary Clinton and that foundation, I think you need a 30-gallon trash basket of Skittles. Is that a good ratio to compare this?
At least, maybe 300-gallon bucket. It's what Donald's done versus what Hillary and Bill have done. It's like child's play. It just goes back, 30 years of craziness that they've been involved in. And frankly, I'm embarrassed to think that we live in a country that could have a person that's as corrupt as Hillary, actually even running for president, let alone elected for president.
Bill, we'll come up on a hard break. Can you hold with us just for a couple minutes? We'll run commercials, and we want to get back and explore your mind some more.
Thanks, JD.
JD and Rick coming to you live from Conservative Commando's Radio Network Studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the Internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 24/7.
I'm crazy. really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos radio network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, CCRSnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Since 2011, we have been calling for a national commitment from all Americans to participate in an annual event to honor all of the victims and their families who suffered during and after the most devastating event to ever take place on American soil. We all remember those horrible scenes of destruction on September 11th, 2001 that unfolded right before our eyes, either up front or on television. We continue to ask every American to participate in the united action of prayer, which is simply to stop whatever you are doing at precisely 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. to either observe 1 minute of silence or to offer a prayer to honor the memory of those who were directly affected by this unforgettable scene of destruction. Please include a prayer of thanks for living in a country where even something as horrific as 9/11 could not weaken our spirit. This year, we would like to ask one more thing as a show of unity since we are still fighting with the enemy who caused the 9/11 tragedy. Would you display the flag for the day at your home, on your car, bike, or anywhere you can display Old Glory? Let's show our enemies that we can still unite in our love for our country.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Judy and Rick coming back with you. You'd like to hear rebroadcast of today's show, check out our website, CCRSnetwork.com. TCRShow.com. And at noontime, log on to roarradio.net. At 11 p.m., you can log on to highplainsdailynews.com, and you can listen to Conservative Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. Our guest is Bill Cummings with Pathfinder. And, Bill, I want to turn from Hillary's health to Hillary's healthcare policy. And you're an expert on this subject, and I know she and other Democrats are pushing for a public option. Talk a little bit about that.
Certainly will, J.D. Overall, Obamacare is pretty much of a train wreck, and an awful lot of bad things are going on. It certainly needs to be overhauled or eliminated. For example, two of the major companies in the country, Aetna Health Insurance Company and United Healthcare, have pulled out of most of the exchanges. Probably a third of the states did their own exchanges to make Obamacare work, and they're underfunded or not funded enough to keep on going, so they're collapsing. And as you know, the premiums are going up 10, 20, 30, 40% because the companies need to catch up on the losses they took because the federal government did not pay them the monies that they had been promised under the risk corridor theory. Nobody knows much about that, but the federal government was going to subsidize the insurance companies kind of out the back door in order to keep the rates low and make the rates look low. But since the government stiffed the companies on that, the companies now having to take really high premium increases for 2017 in order to make back the losses. And that's going to exacerbate the situation. As you know, Donald is basically saying, let's do away with Obamacare and start all over again, which is probably a good strategy. But Hillary's strategy is kind of the next step towards national health care, and her strategy is called the public option. And my understanding of the public option is basically that each state is going to start their own insurance company with taxpayers' money and compete in the market with private industry. Now, I believe in Indiana that would be illegal, but essentially that's what her strategy is. And that's the next step towards a single-payer system, which is disaster.
Bill, by the way, we are speaking with Bill Cummings. He's the CEO of Pathfinder here. Bill, don't you know Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama? The law doesn't mean anything to them. What's law? What are laws? What's that little thing called the Constitution? We're just going to do what we feel's good.
Well, Rick, the laws are for other people, according to people.
Well, you know, Bill, right at the end, you talked about, in talking about Obamacare, you mentioned single payer. And in my estimation, Obamacare was designed to fail from the beginning because single payer is exactly what the Democrat Party wants. They didn't ever want people to have choice. They didn't ever want these exchanges. So this whole thing was designed to fail. And they're getting exactly what they want.
Yep. If I've been teaching healthcare for about 40 years, and the parameters that the thing was originally designed with, if you knew anything about underwriting and healthcare, you knew that the parameters was going to cause it to fail. So right up front, it was designed to fail, and now they're getting what they want, is failure, and Hillary's kind of going politically halfway to where they really want to go.
Mm-hmm.
And I bet you dollars to donuts in the next 20 days, just before the election, that Obama's going to come out and say, I told you those SOB insurance companies were a bunch of crooks, and so what we're going to do is nationalize health care right in the middle of the election. And he won't get away with it, but I think it's an interesting political tact.
Yeah, well, Bill, I would take that bet. I do like donuts. Bring on those Krispy Kremes, but I think you're right. I think you're dead. I think you're. By the way, go to Krispy Kremes. Get the vanilla filled with the chocolate icing. They're my favorite. But I think you're right about everything you're saying about Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. But Trump's plan, Trump said that he has a plan that people are going to love. It's going to be wonderful, but he really hasn't come out with details, has he, Bill? Or have I missed something?
Not that I know, but if he'd give me a call, I wrote a plan to overhaul this whole thing about 3 years ago. If he'd give me a call, I'd be glad to share it with him.
Well, share it with us.
Yeah. We don't have 2 hours, Rick, but...
I know we don't. We've got about 4 or 5 minutes, but you can give us the Reader's Digest condensed version.
Sure. It took us about 50, 60 years to get this screwed up. Started in 1935 with FDR and Social Security, and then it got worse and worse as we got into Medicare and Medicaid. And we went from capitalism to socialism and all these programs, and they've gotten bigger and bigger, and they're all basically bankrupt and certainly not funded. So my plan, it took 60 years to get screwed up, probably take 50 years to get unscrewed. So basically for people over, pick an age, 50, 55, 60, everything continues the way it is. What with Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and SSDI and all that stuff. But for people that are young, pick an age, 5 years, 10 years old, whatever, they start with an entirely new system, which is basically they save their own money. And the money takes care of their health care when they're all ages and replaces Medicare. You still have to do Medicaid to the state level, probably have to keep that program going. But for the healthy working people, they have basically health care savings accounts that are, way expanded. And maybe the employer makes contributions, and maybe the government says you got to save 3% of your earnings, blah, blah, blah. Haven't worked all that out yet. But essentially, each person throughout their lifetime saves money for their retirement, which would be very, very different than what we have under Social Security. Under Social Security, if you don't make it to retirement, all the $200,000 you saved is trashed. You don't get it. And if you retired and took Social Security and died a month later, all the money in your account is gone because there is no money. And with my idea, you would have an asset that would be probably worth $500,000, $750,000 when you're at retirement age, and that would take care of your health care and your retirement, and it would be your money. And if you don't,
well, who would administrate
on your kids?
Bill, who would administrate that? Because I personally would not want the administration of that kind of plan in the hands of government.
No, absolutely not. You administer it yourself through the companies that are in that business, the financial planning businesses. The money would be invested in this country in stocks and bonds, and that would provide capital for growth, and it's managed by professionals. And if you don't like it, you can change who's managing your money.
Mm-hmm. Well, that makes a lot of sense to me. Hey, Bill, I want to bring you back to the earlier part of the conversation that you had with JD. And by the way, I think you did a great job in coming up with those 10 points, those 10 incidences of Hillary Clinton's health. A couple other that I wanted to mention to you. Does the name Uma Abedin mean anything to you, Bill?
Absolutely.
President. I'm sorry?
She's going to be the next president. So when Hillary's cranked out and gone, to run the place.
Well, in 2013, Uma Abedin wrote in an email to another of Hillary Clinton's staffers that Hillary Clinton must be thoroughly brought up to date on things because she is, quote, often confused. And this comes from Uma Abedin. Another point, that after her 2012 fall, where she ended up with a blood clot and probably a concussion, Bill Clinton, her husband, said after that, it took Hillary 6 months of very hard work to get over that. Another incident, another thing I want to bring up, Bill, is after that fall, after that concussion in 2012, Hillary Clinton was supposed to make a couple of big trips. One was to California. The other one was to Northern Africa. Both of those trips were canceled because her doctors advised her not to get on an airplane and fly long trips. And very coincidental, after her incident September 11th at the Ground Zero Memorial, she again was supposed to make a long trip to California, and that trip was canceled. So there's a lot to go about her health. Hey, Bill, we only have 1 minute. I do have one quick question. I'd like you to answer it in 30 seconds if you can. Why is Hillary's health important to the American people?
Well, if Hillary is not answering the telephone at 3 a.m., who is? Is it going to be Umedin that's making the decisions, or the vice president? Or, we need to know who we're trusting with the reins of our government. And if you can't know who it is, how in the world can you trust the government?
Bill Cummings, CEO and President of Pathfinder. Bill, how can our listeners follow your work?
I have a website, pathfinderedu.com. Pathfinderedu is an education.com. And I think I'll post an awful lot more stuff on the website.
Bill Cummings, CEO of Pathfinder, we want to thank you so much for joining us on the Conservative Commandos radio show. You take care. God bless. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Rick. Appreciate it. Bye.
And you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with J.D. Minear and Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network at WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, KNDA Talk, iHeartRadio, AM, FM 24/7. On the other side, we'll be speaking with Colonel Richard Bauer, Jr., U.S. Air Force retired. Be right back. This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos radio show.
And I'm John Forsyth, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow Patriots, The Conservative Commandos radio show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions. We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we are trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth of 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos radio show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers.
Since 2011, we have been calling for a national commitment from all Americans to participate in an annual event to honor all of the victims and their families who suffered during and after the most devastating event to ever take place on American soil. We all remember those horrible scenes of destruction on September 11th, 2001 that unfolded right before our eyes, either up front or on television. We continue to ask every American to participate in the united action of prayer, which is simply to stop whatever you are doing at precisely 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. to either observe 1 minute of silence or to offer a prayer to honor the memory of those who are directly affected by this unforgettable scene of destruction. Please include a prayer of thanks for living in a country where even something as horrific as 9/11 could not weaken our spirit. This year, we would like to ask one more thing as a show of unity since we are still fighting with the enemy who caused the 9/11 tragedy. Would you display the flag for the day at your home, on your car, bike, or anywhere you can display Old Glory? Let's show our enemies that we can still unite in our love for our country.
I'm Pastor Christina Lamanier. I'm a concerned mother and grandmother, and I urge you to vote for Donald Trump. Our Commander-in-Chief's highest priority is to secure the safety and freedom of Americans of every race, creed, and color. Trump will solve the ISIS crisis quickly and utilize the talents of people like Mayor Rudy Giuliani to restore law and order in our streets. Donald Trump will build the wall, secure our borders, and bring back jobs and prosperity to America by slashing taxes, cutting government waste, stamping out political correctness, harnessing our abundant natural resources, unleashing the patriotism and genius of we the people. Always remember, there is a special place in heaven for followers of Jesus Christ.
For more information, log on to INRASuperPAC.com. INRA Super PAC paid for this ad and is solely responsible for its content, not authorized by any candidate or its committee.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We're establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired, as I am, about the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on WNJC Radio 1360 a.m. or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioNetwork.com and CCRN.com for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard. From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet. We're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos Radio Show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. Businessman there, drink my wine. You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
This is J.D. Manier and Rick Trader. If you'd like to hear rebroadcasts of today's show, just check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com and ccrshow.com. We're at noontime. Log on to roarradio.net. And at 11 p.m., log on to highplaindailynews.com. Now, you can listen to Conservative Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. Our next guest, Colonel Richard F. Dick Brower, Jr., United States Air Force retired, was a rated officer with 5,200 hours of worldwide operational flying and is a co-founder of Special Operations Speaks PAC. Dick graduated with honors from the United States Army War College in 1984 and was inducted in the Air Commando Hall of Fame in 2000. Welcome back to the show, Dick.
Thank you. It's good to be back, J.D.
Real quickly, describe Operation Speaks, Special Operations Speaks for our listeners.
Sure. If I might, what I'd like to do is just in a short period is go over a little bit of our history for listeners that may have never heard of SOS. And then later on talk about VPAC 1, which is the first VPAC we ran, and then more importantly VPAC 2. So let me begin by giving you the 1 minute, I guess, or 2 minute overview of Special Ops Speaks and our history over the past 4.5 years. Special Ops Speaks, or SOS as we call it, is a hybrid or a super PAC, what they call a 527 Political Action Committee, and we formed up in May of 2012, about 4.5 years ago. We're all volunteers, small staff. None of us receive a salary except our lawyer, of course, our legal counsel, which you must have as a PAC. Why did we start this? Well, after the takedown of bin Laden, this administration had what I call egregious and damaging operational security, OPSEC, violations, which endanger all our future operations by our special ops forces and endangers their families. And so we began to form up. We said we've got to do something. So we formed SOS, and later on that year in September, we sent a letter through Peter King, Republican, New York, to Congress urging hearings on these egregious OPSEC violations, some of which, one example, is the Pakistani doctor, Dr. Afridi, that kind of gave us the keys to the kingdom as to how to get in and get bin Laden, is still in jail because of the fact that his name was released in public. Later on, we formulated a mission, and our mission statement, and I'll abbreviate it very quickly, is to identify and combat the internal and the external threats to the sovereignty of the United States, and we have 6 goals under that. And the first is something we talked about, you and I talked about, is educating our citizens about the dismantling by the Obama administration of what we call the 4 vital instruments of U.S. national power. And we call it the DIME model, Delta India Mike Echo, DIME. D for diplomatic, I for informational, M for military, and E for economic. And we've built models of this as to the the daily assaults on these things. So one of our first goals is to educate our citizenry about that. And also to discuss Islamic Jihad and Sharia, calling it what it is, and it's an existential threat to the dime and our citizens. To uncover the truth about Benghazi, which I'll get into in a minute, which we labored mightily over that, failed security preparations, abandonment of our citizens, and the deaths of our four heroes in Benghazi. And more than that, the crime of exposing the cover-up and the lies surrounding that. Something that's going to relate to what we'll talk about later on the VPAC is to protect the rights and benefits earned by our active duty personnel and our veterans, very much under attack if you look at the M in the military portion of our dime construct. Also to support qualified congressional candidates and serving members who support and defend our Constitution, our sacred Constitution, and most importantly, given what's going to happen on November 8th, restore credibility and honor to the office of the Commander-in-Chief, which is sorely lacking, if not totally absent right now, in our golf-addicted fundraiser-in-chief. But anyway, that's our mission and our goals. And SOS was, and rightly so, we can claim to be the first to call for the Benghazi Select Committee. We pursued this over the next 19 months until John Boehner finally gave in on the 2nd of May 2014, formed it, appointing, as we all know, Congressman Trey Gowdy to head it up. And
Real
SOS
quick,
held
Dick, I got to interject. People need to remember that was about a week or two before Joe's primary.
Yes.
Don't forget. Go right ahead.
We held numerous press conferences on Benghazi, made about 10 appearances on Fox in 2013, Fox News, and gave by-request presentations to groups in, Maryland, Florida, and Texas come to mind. We compiled a letter to Congress in April of 2013 that we called our SOF, or Special Ops Forces 700 letter, with over that number of signatures from all ranks and all services of Special Ops vets, including 24 flag-level officers, admirals and generals, and 2 Medal of Honor recipients, and we sent it to Congress. In July 2013, we then turned that letter into a 4-foot by 60-foot vinyl scroll, the largest ever presented to Congress, and had a scroll-out event near the steps of the Capitol with 12 distinguished features, and that was covered as well by Fox News. In October 2013, we played a major role in the Vets March on the monuments. If you'll remember, during that time, Obama, to save money rather than ground Air Force One, decided to keep restrict the veterans, particularly our World War II veterans, from and put up barriers to the monuments in Washington, D.C. And SOS led the charge, and we took down those barricades, as we call them, BARRCADES, and allowed our veterans to get in there. Also, at the about a year after we were founded, 4 of us were invited to serve, and are still serving, as members of the Distinguished Citizens Commission on Benghazi. We call it the CCB, which formed about a year after SOS, and is still seeking the truth as to what happened that terrible night. So that's kind of a quickie before we got to VPAC 1, and what we decided was that in mid-2015, let's create a sister organization upon the advice of our legal counsel called VPAC, Veteran Patriots Action Conference. We wanted to run a conference, a nonpartisan conference, so that we could invite the presidential candidates of both the dark and the light side, I guess, to come in and parlay with the attendees, and that's largely veterans and their spouses. And I want to mention the spouses here, because I'll say it again. When we talk about veterans voting, they have to remember that the spouses normally vote right along with their husband or wife, in whatever case that is, and doubles the impact of the veteran vote, which I'll get back to. So we decided, we formed VPAC, Veterans Patriot Action Conference, which is a 501c19 nonprofit organization, a veterans organization, kind of like, I guess, the American Legion and the VA, in order to run the conference. And we selected Charleston, South Carolina, 2 days before the primary, which turned out to be fortuitous for us. and we had two presidential candidates show up, and I'll mention them in a minute. So we were wearing two hats. For those that are listening that are former military, we were wearing two hats. We had SOS as a sponsor and VPAC as a veterans organization. And our objective then, as it is in VPAC 2, which I'll mention in a minute, is to get out the veteran vote on 8 November. And when you hear what I'm going to tell you in the way of figures, it's astounding to me what we didn't do in 2012 and what we can do on November 8th. We held that first VPAC, and it was a very successful conference. We had a little over 100 attendees, and it became the model for VPAC 2, which we're about to do. We invited the presidential candidates from both sides, as I mentioned, and at that time, Dr. Ben Carson, and he's a real gentleman, just as you would imagine, came and addressed our groups on the stage and their spouses on 19 February, the second day of the conference, for about 45 minutes. And then we got to meet with him privately and present him a couple of challenge coins and discuss some of the other issues. Following Dr. Carson, none other than Donald Trump showed up at the end of the conference, since he was in the building like Elvis, sat down with the vets and spouses for about 35 minutes and asked questions about our concerns, and VA was one of them, the status of the Veterans Association affairs, and our concerns. And it was at this point we decided to have VPAC 2 with the same objective we had for VPAC 1, and that's maximizing the veteran vote.
Hey, Dick, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we have to go to a break. Could you hold on for just 2 minutes for us, please?
Certainly will. Thank you.
All right, and you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with J.D. Manier and yours truly, Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network at WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, AM, FM 24/7. Our guest this segment is retired Colonel Richard Brower, U.S. Air Force, and we're talking about Operation Special Ops and VPAC 1 and 2. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos radio network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, CCRSnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Since 2011, we have been calling for a national commitment from all Americans to participate in an annual event to honor all of the victims and their families who suffered during and after the most devastating event to ever take place on American soil. We all remember those horrible scenes of destruction on September 11th, 2001 that unfolded right before our eyes, either up front or on television. We continue to ask every American to participate in the united action of prayer, which is simply to stop whatever you are doing at precisely 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. to either observe 1 minute of silence or to offer a prayer to honor the memory of those who are directly affected by this unforgettable scene of destruction. Please include a prayer of thanks for living in a country where even something as horrific as 9/11 could not weaken our spirit. This year, we would like to ask one more thing as a show of unity, since we are still fighting with the enemy who caused the 9/11 tragedy. Would you display the flag for the day at your home, on your car, bike, or anywhere you can display Old Glory? Let's show our enemies that we can still unite in our love for our country.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
This is J.D. Manier and your host, Rick Trader. If you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, just check out our website, RSNetwork.com and CCRShow.com. Or at noontime, log on to roarradio.net. And at 11 p.m., log on to HighPlainsDailyNews.com. Now you can listen to Concerted Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. We're speaking with Colonel Dick Brower of Special Operations Speaks. Welcome back to the show, Dick.
Thank you. Good to be back. I left off at the end of VPAC 1, and like I said, we decided at that point to have a follow-up, VPAC 2, closer to the election. Same objective, maximizing the veteran vote. To support that, on March the 5th, a couple of months back, we started a 5-minute broadcast on the Don Smith Blog Talk radio show every Saturday at 12:55 Eastern, which we call our Vets in the Fight, VIF, SITREP, Situation Report. So, why VPAC 2? Besides, again, maximizing the vote. We called it America's Security and the Veteran Voter, a very timely topic for what's going on right now within our borders and external to our nation. It'll be held in Pinehurst, North Carolina on 10 and 11 October over Columbus Day at the Sandhills Community College Owens Auditorium from 8:30 to 4 p.m. each day. We've got a top lineup of speakers, just like we did in not the same ones, but just like we did in VPAC 1. We've got Lieutenant General Jerry Boykin, United States Army retired, who will give the wrap-up speech on the second day. Major General Paul Vallely, United States Army retired, Stand Up America. Roger Aronoff, the editor of Accuracy in Media and our chief contact on the Citizens Commission on Benghazi. Lieutenant General Tom McInerney, former Vice Chief of the Air Force, also a close friend and a member of the CCB, as we call it. And Major General Sid Shacknow, a Holocaust survivor and former very important general within Special Forces. And a host of others that I won't mention here as time doesn't permit it right now, but just a dynamite lineup of speakers. Just listen carefully to some of the data I'm going to give you, because this is one of the reasons we're doing it. In 2012, we had 22 million U.S. veterans in the United States, and of those veterans, 6 million, that's an astonishing 27%, did not vote at all in the election. Here's some other stats. Now we have 22.5 million vets, and vets comprise 7% of the United States population of 324 million souls. California has the largest number of vets with 1.85 million. Texas has 2 at 1.78 million. And Florida, where I'm sitting right now, is number 3 at 1.58 million. And a whopping 13% of Floridians are veterans. Some of you listening are from the swing states that will determine the outcome of this election. For example, Pennsylvania has 939,000 veterans. Ohio, 866,000. Virginia, 781,000. And North Carolina, 775,000. And if I fail to mention your state, you can go to www.va.gov/vetdata/veteran population. And you can see how many vets, how they're broken out, male, female, where they are, and how they are in your state. Very handy website. Imagine if we could increase the veteran vote in your state by 10% in 2016. As you think back to that 27% no-shows in 2012 of the veterans. The message is simple. Vets and their spouses can help win the day on November 8th. Vet spouses are force multipliers and significantly can up the numbers of veteran votes that I just mentioned. Most important, and a lot of people forget this, before you can vote, you must register to vote, an essential and necessary first step. SOS Vets in the Fight, we've declared on our own September and October to be voter registration months. And you can get the registration forms online or at your nearest Board of Elections. So my advice would be, if you haven't registered, contact your veteran friends, that are not listening to us today, and be sure they register to vote. That step is essential. A former World War II highly decorated veteran and a mentor of mine, Lieutenant General Samuel Wilson, a real hero, by the way, a Merrill's Marauder in World War II, used to say special ops mission planning consists of only 3 steps. 1, get to the target. 2, accomplish your mission. 3, come home safely. As one of the vets in the fight, your mission also consists of what I call a 3-step dance. 1, register to vote now. 2, vote for the candidate you feel is qualified to be our next commander-in-chief. And when you get back home, number 3, after the election, back veterans and other qualified candidates for Congress, and then hold them accountable for their actions. Or in some cases, like John Boehner and the Benghazi Select Committee, their inactions. So my message would be, please join us in Pinehurst, North Carolina on 10 and 11 October. As with VPAC 1 last February, we have invited the candidates from both parties, candidates for the presidency, to discuss the challenges, reference our national security, and their policies that they intend to, should they get elected, to exercise. Our website, www.vetsinthefight.com. www.vetsinthefight.com. Register, attend VPAC 2, join us, and we have that star-studded lineup of speakers that we've had in VPAC 1, and we'll have many of those and new ones back again. All the information on the lodging, the local lodging, very reasonable, is there as well. And I always tell all my friends, don't wake up on 9 November and say, gosh, I wish I had done more to influence the outcome of the November election. I'd end that by saying the survival of our precious republic is literally at stake, to include the futures of our friends and our families. And I'd love to take questions.
Well, I've got one, Dick, and that is, how do people get online and register, and then how do they learn more about, because you got a couple programs going here, VPAC, you got Vets in the Fight, and you've got Special Operations Speak. So kind of delineate that for our listeners, because I think
the Special Ops Speaks website is down for a while, and the way to go is to that one website, www.vetsinthefight.com. It's easy to use. It shows the program. It has the available lodging, and all that you would need to register through what we call Eventbrite, I guess it's called, and then make your way to near Southern Pines, Pinehurst, North Carolina. It's a wonderful time of year to be there. The weather will be cool. For those that are golfers, if you want to stay on your own, there's some terrific golf up there, and it's all on that one website. It's just, we designed it specifically for VPAC 2, and it's www.vetsinthefight.com.
We just have 1 minute, Dick, but how would you characterize VPAC 1? It looks like one of the guys, Donald Trump, who came to your event, went on to win that state. How would you characterize that? Was that successful?
It was very successful. Given that we had about 100 there, it was very personal. I mean, Donald Trump was not on stage. We went into what we call the green room. We sat down at a table, and we all sat around him, and then we had, of course, the group pictures, and I presented him with a couple of challenge coins from Special Ops Speaks. And he was in the listening mode, the receive mode, not the transmit mode. What are your problems? What are your concerns? The VA was front and center for some of those that were there, and I might add there were veterans and their wives there that had their own concerns. And he was open, honest, and it was 35-40 minutes with us there. Again, he was in the building for a rally, and we invited him down, and he came down. He wasn't scheduled to be there, but we got him there. And it's hard to boast of a conference that's had 2 presidential candidates show up and speak. And again, Dr. Carson was elegant, just eloquent and elegant. And we hope we've invited them again. Now, whether they'll show or not, that's up to them. It's the 500-pound gorilla. But as you know, some of them do on a whim show up to talk to the veterans and find out what they're doing. And so we hope they'll come. In any case, we will fill the second day and discuss policies to meet the challenges of national security, which are fierce right now in 2017. And this is something the vets and their wives would enjoy.
Dick, we're coming up against that hard break. We want to thank you, and I think my governor, Mike Pence, is on the invitation list, too, and I think it'll be very successful. God bless you. We look forward to hearing more, bringing you back on the show.
Thank you, and God bless you and your listeners. Thank you.
This is J.D. Manier and Rick Trader, your host, coming to you live from Conservative Commando's Radio Network Studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the Internet with the American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 24/7.
I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos radio show.
And I'm John Forsyth, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow Patriots, the Conservative Commandos radio show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions. We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we are trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos radio show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers.
Since 2011, we have been calling for a national commitment from all Americans to participate in an annual event to honor all of the victims and their families who suffered during and after the most devastating event to ever take place on American soil. We all remember those horrible scenes of destruction on September 11th, 2001 that unfolded right before our eyes, either up front or on television. We continue to ask every American to participate in the united action of prayer, which is simply to stop whatever you are doing at precisely 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. to either observe 1 minute of silence or to offer a prayer to honor the memory of those who are directly affected by this unforgettable scene of destruction. Please include a prayer of thanks for living in a country where even something as horrific as 9/11 could not weaken our spirit. This year, we would like to ask one more thing as a show of unity since we are still fighting with the enemy who caused the 9/11 tragedy. Would you display the flag for the day at your home, on your car, bike, or anywhere you can display Old Glory? Let's show our enemies that we can still unite in our love for our country.
I'm Pastor Christina Lamanier. I'm a concerned mother and grandmother, and I urge you to vote for Donald Trump. Our Commander-in-Chief's highest priority is to secure the safety and freedom of Americans of every race, creed, and color. Trump will solve the ISIS crisis quickly and utilize the talents of people like Mayor Rudy Giuliani to restore law and order in our streets. Donald Trump will build the wall, secure our borders, and bring back jobs and prosperity to America by slashing taxes, cutting government waste, stamping out political correctness, harnessing our abundant natural resources, unleashing the patriotism and genius of we the people. Always remember, there is a special place in heaven for followers of Jesus Christ.
For more information, log on to INRASuperPAC.com. INRA Super PAC paid for this ad and is solely responsible for its content, not authorized by any candidate or its committee.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We're establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired, as I am, about the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on WNJC Radio 1360 a.m. or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioNetwork.com and CCRN.com for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard. From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet. We're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
If you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, check out our website, CCRSnetwork.com, CCRS.com, or at noontime, log on to roarradio.net. At 11 p.m., log on to HighPlainsDailyNews.com, and now you can listen to the Conservative Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. Our next guest is on tap, and the honor of introducing him is Rick Traders.
Dr. Herbert London is the president of the London Center for Polity Research and a senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute. Dr. London's work has appeared in every major newspaper and journal in the country, and he is the co-author of the BDS War Against Israel, the Orwellian Campaign to Destroy Israel Through Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions. And his latest book is The Encyclopedia of Militant Islam. Dr. Herb London, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Always a pleasure to be with you. Thank you very much.
We appreciate your time and your knowledge in joining us. The Encyclopedia of Militant Islam. Did we see another example of this over the weekend with the bombings in New York, New Jersey, and the slashings in Minnesota?
Well, there is no question about it. What you are seeing is, of course, a war against the United States and against Western civilization. The war takes on the form of what Chairman Mao used to call the splinter insurgency strategy, which is the strategy of Al-Qaeda, the strategy of the militant Islamic groups. So there is no doubt that what we are experiencing now is the manifestation of a war like insurgency, but you will have individuals attack Americans and attack those in the West. We've seen many of examples of it, and while, Trotsky once made the comment, you may not want war, but war wants you, the war is now on our shores. It is here. It is in San Bernardino. It is in New York. It is in Chattanooga. It is in Fort Hood, Texas. It's in Boston. The war is everywhere in America, and Americans should start understanding that, even if this administration doesn't get it.
Well, it's not just the administration, Dr. London. It's also people like the mayor of New York, who was very reluctant to call this terrorism.
Oh, I think that's right. He couldn't call it terrorism. Hillary Clinton couldn't call it terrorism. She said, we need all of the facts. Well, here are the facts. This man who has committed the crime, Rahami, does not like homosexuals. He does not like America. He does not like the culture. He has gone to Afghanistan and Pakistan. He talks about his adherence to the views of Allah. If those aren't facts, and there aren't sufficient facts to tell you this is a militant Islamic individual, I don't know what will tell you. So, I mean, it's kind of absurd that people who should know better still are unwilling to say the obvious.
And also, Dr. London, what disturbs me is them saying, oh, well, this is a lone wolf. Like, this should excuse his actions? Or this should put America at rest, that we're not under attack?
Excuse me for interrupting you.
No problem.
No such thing as a lone wolf. No such thing. This is the narrative that the Muslim Brotherhood wants you to accept. That these are lone wolves, these are outsiders. There is no such thing. They have to be inspired by something. There has to be an internet connection. Do you sit down and spend your evenings trying to make bombs out of pressure cookers?
No, I don't.
Where does this come from? No, of course you don't. But where does this come from? Obviously, there is a connection to this militant Islamic world. There is no such thing as a lone wolf. I love it when people start using that term that, well, these are outsiders. They don't really have any relationship to this radical Islamic world. Oh, really? This is exactly what it is. As I said, this is a splinter insurgency. Just as splinters fall off the wood, as Chairman Mao once put it, speaking metaphorically. And you have individuals operating to bring about the insurgency. The same is true with the strategy that is presently employed by the militant Islamic groups across the globe. Exactly the same. So you will have individuals that, well, you know, they'll take an AK-47 and they'll shoot 30 to 40 people. These are outsiders. Oh, they have nothing. These are lone wolves. Please, using that terminology is the terminology that the Muslim Brotherhood wants you to use. It is not at all acceptable or appropriate.
Dr. London, have you seen any evidence that Rahami did not act alone, that he may have been a perpetrator, but he had help, that he may have been part of a cell in northern New Jersey?
I don't have any evidence of that kind at all.
Okay.
But you're missing my point. I'm trying to make the point that he had to be radicalized by someone.
Oh, I get that. I get that. And as you said,
there's an ideology that is very much a part of the war that we are engaged in. The war is not simply a war fought with bullets. It's a war fought with ideas. This is an ideational struggle. So there are ideas that obviously inspire the enemy. We need ideas that certainly counter the ideas of the enemy. And then if you understand that, then you understand the doctrines that are involved in making the Rouhamis the kind of people they are.
Dr. London, we have to go to a break, and after the break, maybe I can come back and ask you the question, how do we win the war of ideas? So could you hold on for just 2 minutes for us, please?
Sure.
And you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with J.D. Manier and yours truly, Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network at WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, AM, FM 24/7. Our guest this segment is Dr. Herbert London, President of the London Center for Policy Research. Don't go away, JD, and I will be right back with our guest.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos radio network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, CCRSnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Since 2011, we have been calling for a national commitment from all Americans to participate in an annual event to honor all of the victims and their families who suffered during and after the most devastating event to ever take place on American soil. We all remember those horrible scenes of destruction on September 11th, 2001 that unfolded right before our eyes, either up front or on television. We continue to ask every American to participate in the united action of prayer, which is simply to stop whatever you are doing at precisely 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. to either observe 1 minute of silence or to offer a prayer to honor the memory of those who are directly affected by this unforgettable scene of destruction. Please include a prayer of thanks for living in a country where even something as horrific as 9/11 could not weaken our spirit. This year, we would like to ask one more thing as a show of unity, since we are still fighting with the enemy who caused the 9/11 tragedy. Would you display the flag for the day at your home, on your car, bike, or anywhere you can display Old Glory? Let's show our enemies that we can still unite in our love for our country.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
And welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with J.D. Manier and yours truly, Rick Trader. Our guest this segment is Dr. Herbert London. He is the president of the London Center for Policy Research. He's also the co-author of a new book, The Encyclopedia of Militant Islam. Dr. London, thanks for holding through that break. As always, we appreciate your time.
Happy to do it. Happy to be with you.
So, Dr. London, before we went to the break, I asked you this question. You know, our military, they might know how to win the war of bullets and bombs, but how do you win the war of ideals?
Well, let me try to address that question as briefly as possible, but it's a complicated answer. We have a template for fighting the war of ideas, and it occurred during the Cold War. We didn't only fight the Cold War on battlefields in Korea and Vietnam. We also fought it with a world of ideas. If you went to an Eastern European university by the end of the 1980s and you said, what do you think about Marxism, Leninism? These guys and women would laugh. They would say, what are you talking about? It's absurd. It has no application to the world wars. We recognize it as absurd communist theory. That's what they would have said. And I've experienced it. So I experienced it firsthand. Now, what is interesting about that is that it took from 1917 to the end of the 1980s for people to embrace that point of view. How did that happen? It happened through cultural intervention. We actually spent money on publications that the CIA endorsed and were underwriting. We spent the money on dirty tricks. We spent the money on clandestine officers. We spent the money on penetrating the cells of communists across the globe. We spent the money on propaganda. So there is a way of fighting this war, and we have a template for it, but we've forgotten in large part because we've defanged the CIA. But if you have a CIA that can operate effectively, and you understand the way in which you fight the war of ideas, which is fought on many different fronts, including the educational front, then it seems to me that you can win that war. We are very clever at it. But again, part of the problem is we have forgotten. We have gotten very lazy and we do not remember. And as I've suggested, the CIA operated very effectively for a considerable period until the Congress went through this analysis and defunded and defanged the CIA from the operations it was engaged in. People don't like dirty tricks. And, I understand that. And there is a moral position that many people say is abhorrent when you have dirty tricks. But you have to understand there are people who want to kill you. And if you do not operate in a certain way, trying to undermine the capacity of these people to engage harm against you, then you're going to lose that war. So we have to engage the war on many different levels. And that means using the immoral tricks or amoral tricks that are necessary to undermine this foe.
Dr. London, when you talk about their dirty tricks, I don't think there's dirtier tricks in the world than what the Islamic terrorists, these Islamist terrorists have been using against us. Pressure cooker bombs, slashings, and whatever. But when you talk about defanging the CIA, this is not the first time this happened. This happened back in the 1970s during the Carter administration.
That's correct. There have been several illustrations on history where the CIA has been brought before the Congress and virtually taken apart as an organization, with many claims that they've been engaged in what I've just described, immoral behavior. But what you have to understand is the nature of the enemy and what you're obliged to do in order to combat the effect of this enemy. I'm not saying these are things you'd like to do or you'd want family members to do, but these are things that are necessary in a war that we are now engaged in. And if you recognize it as a war where you're fighting for the survival of your nation and the survival of your civilization, then it takes on very different meaning. These people are really heroes because they are doing what is necessary to undermine the capacity of the enemy to commit crimes against Americans.
Here on the Conservative Commandos radio show, we are speaking with Dr. Herbert London, and his most recent book is The Encyclopedia of Militant Islam. Dr. London, on the other line, I have my co-host, J.D. Munir, who wants to get in this conversation. I know he has a couple of questions for you. J.D.?
Here, I live in Indianapolis, Doctor, and we have more monuments to war veterans and war memorials than other cities in the United States, except for D.C. So we've got World War II, Korea, World War I. Should we now
be building Indianapolis, so I know. So yes, I know all about it.
Should we be getting ready to erect a big monument and put the word narrative, the narrative war? Is that what we need to do?
Well, this is what Josh Earnest is trying to tell Americans. It's a narrative war. It's not a narrative war. It's a real war. It's a very real war. It's not simply a war based on their perception of reality and our perception of reality. It is a real war where we're trying to protect the Constitution and the basic freedoms that we are privileged to enjoy. It is a real war in the sense that there are people who are out there very eager to kill you. They want to send you to another world because that is a way of undermining the capacity of this country to respond effectively to the challenges we face. This is a real war in the sense that they want to destroy that flag. They want to tell Americans, you know what? You are going to be panicked because you don't know when we're going to strike, and we are going to do this continually. So, yeah, this is a very real war. You may recall that it was Osama bin Laden who roughly 25 years ago said, we must kill 7 million Americans. I don't know why the number 7 million was employed. There might have been a reason for it, but we got to kill 7 million Americans. Well, think about that. 7 million Americans have to die, according to Osama bin Laden and the Al-Qaeda position. So we've got to take steps to make sure that nothing like that happens. And I'm not sure we are taking the appropriate steps at this moment.
Hey, I got one more comment and ask you to respond. Wolves run in packs. Lone wolf will be very dysfunctional, but I don't think that these militant jihadists are acting very dysfunctionally. I think they're running right straight to course when they're killing people.
Oh, look, they've got the internet. They're reasonably sophisticated. There are all kinds of communication networks that exist. Look, I don't accept the idea of lone wolves because that means that someone simply wakes up one morning and, like taking ideas from the brow of Zeus, he says, you know what, I can make a bomb out of a pressure cooker. Please. I mean, this is not something that the average person engages in or even thinks about. He's inspired by something, and that something is the militant Islamic doctrines that he gets online, or he gets by visiting Pakistan or Afghanistan, or he gets because there are people nearby who are whispering in his ear, telling him this is what you have to do. And after all, you're going to be in paradise if you act on behalf of Allah to promote the ideas of Islam. So, again, there is a narrative. And the narrative, however, leads to violence. And that violence leads to war. And that war leads to a lot of bloodshed. So that's where we are. We have to understand that. We were very lucky in New York. There are 31 New Yorkers who were injured, one very seriously. But that bomb could have easily killed 31. Mm-hmm. I mean, we are very, very lucky in New York in a sense. But you have to realize that the person who set that bomb off, Mr. Rahami, he wasn't intent on simply injuring New Yorkers. He wanted to kill New Yorkers. That was his goal. And we have to understand that in a war, people will die. And we have to take whatever measures are necessary to prevent that from happening and kill the enemy in the first place.
Dr. London, my thinking is even more than trying to kill people, he wanted to put people in fear.
I think that's right. But again, when you say, if you set up a bomb on 23rd Street in the midst of a very congested area, the goal may not be to kill 31 people, but the likelihood is you will kill 31 people. What I'm saying is that he didn't think this through and say, you know what, I just want to make sure they're injured, or I want to instill fear. He was saying, I want to kill New Yorkers. Yeah. I mean, why else would you set a bomb in a congested area? I mean, if you said you're putting a bomb in the middle of Adirondack Park, well, the likelihood is you're going to kill someone or instill fear is meaningless. But putting it on 23rd Street in a congested area and on 27th Street, that clearly suggests you had very clear intent in mind.
Dr. Herbert London, President of the London Center for Policy Research, we want to thank you so much for joining us here in the Conservative Commandos radio show. Please tell our audience where they can get your book, The Encyclopedia of Militant Islam, and also keep track of your other work.
Well, thank you for the plug. The book is available on Amazon, very easy to obtain. Just write to Amazon. If you want additional information about the work that we do, londoncenter.org is the website. I'm always happy to hear from your listeners. In fact, have heard from your listeners in the past, so they shouldn't hesitate to give me a buzz through the internet. And again, thank you very much for the great work that you do and for the questions that you've addressed today, which I think are important.
Well, thank you, Dr. London. Dr. Herbert London, President of the London Center for Policy Research, we want to thank you once again for joining us on the Conservative Commandos radio show. Take care. God bless.
Well, my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Take care. Well, JD, we've had another great show. We've had, I always enjoy working with you, JD, as I do my other co-hosts here on the Conservative Commandos radio show. Want to thank Bill Cummings, the CEO and President of Pathfinder, Colonel Richard Brower, U.S. Air Force retired. Please check out his website, Special Operations Speaks. And also, I want to thank our most recent guest, Dr. Herbert London. JD, final thoughts, 30 seconds.
It was a wonderful show today. We brought up a lot of good issues. And I just want to say God bless to our listeners. It's an expanding audience, a special time of year. Back to you, Rick.
Well, with that, we're out of time. We got to run. We got to go. Take care. God bless. We'll see you tomorrow on the radio.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos radio network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Since 2000.